We're here to serve you. This is AFTV channels 2 and 6, Heraklion Air Station, Crete.
Hi everyone, welcome. Come on in. Let's start our tour with the radio station here.
How about that? Another tour. We do a lot of tours here at the radio TV station. Hi, I'm Senior Master Sergeant Al Aldridge, Station Manager, Detachment 4, Air Force European Broadcasting Squadron. People always seem interested in what we do here. In fact, so interested, 350 of you responded and told us how we were doing on our last audience survey. And that's what tonight's program is all about. I think you'll be genuinely surprised with the results of Feedback 85. This is our maintenance shop. The people who work here don't get a lot of glory, but without their super dedicated effort in doing their job, we'd probably be watching a test pattern, if we were that lucky. But that's typical of this business. What most people know about us is what they hear and see on radio and television. But there's more to the story, a lot more. For instance, for most people, the 6 o'clock news is 2 people on the screen reading stories for a half hour. On our side of the screen, it means at least 18 man-hours of work and often more. Maybe you've listened to a DJ and thought, playing music and talking. Nice work if you can get it. On our side of the microphone, those 2 hours on the air represent 6 hours worth of careful preparation and drudge work, doing all the mundane tasks necessary to keep a radio station running smoothly. Tonight, we'll go behind the scenes and answer some of the questions you had about us. But first, let's talk about you, the people who responded to Feedback 85. 59% of you are male and 36% are female. 38% of you are between the ages of 18 and 24, and 28% are between 25 and 30. We showed 16% between ages 31 and 35, with the remaining 14% 36 and older. The average age was 27. As for ethnic background, 75% of those responding identified themselves as Caucasians, 10% are black, 4% Hispanic, and 1% each for Asians, Indians, and Pacific Islanders. Pay grades are pretty well distributed, as you'd see around the base, with 64% of those responding identifying themselves as E3s, E4s, and E5s. It breaks down to 84% enlisted, 4% commissioned officers, 3% DoD civilians, and 5% family members. 22% of you watch us from base housing, with another 22% tuning in at the barracks. 40% live off base toward Heraklion, and 15% live off base toward Chersonesus. Over half of you, 51%, work day shift, with 41 on rotating shifts. 2% work mids, and 1% of those responding work swings. Peak radio listening begins at 6 a.m. and doesn't begin to slack off until 6 p.m. on weekdays. Television's prime time extends from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. 7 days a week. Finally, the bottom line. When asked, is AFRTS meeting the needs of the community? You answered yes by a solid 71 to 22%. That's 5% better than last year. We're glad to see the improvement, but it looks like 22% of you are still unconvinced. But stay tuned. By the time the program is finished, we might just win you over.
Yasu, that's Greek for hello. It's a friendly, informal greeting that matches the character of the Greek people. And if you're one of those wallflowers who barricades himself in a dormitory or base housing, then it's time to get out and see what you're missing. There's a whole world of faces, places, sights, and sounds just waiting for you. See your host nation. It's the chance of a lifetime. Yasu, that's also Greek for goodbye.
I'm Pete Franquette, NCOIC of Radio, with the radio results of Feedback 85. Now, from what you put down on the surveys, there is no doubt what kind of music you like. Top 40 music outdistanced the rest of the pack with a solid 89% approval rating. Oldies came up second at 73%. 63% of you enjoy country music, 59% like easy listening, and hard rock rounded out the top 5 with a 51% approval rating. With your music preferences in mind, your picks for the top AFRTS shows were no surprise. Casey Kasem's survey of popular music, American Top 40, grabbed the top spot, coming up with 87% approval on our survey. Charlie Tuna takes the number 2 spot with 80% approval. Dick Clark's Rock, Roll, and Remember takes number 3 at 72%. Wolfman Jack comes in at 4 with 70%. And Bob Kingsley's American Country Countdown takes number 5 with a 54% approval rating. Besides the music programs that AFRTS sends us, we produce some local DJ shows. And here are some of your favorites. Daybreak retains its number 1 spot from last year and even boosted its approval rating to 67%. Turnpike takes second with 57% approval. And our late night rock show, Night Flight, rounds out the top 3 with 43%. You gave us some pretty good comments this year, and just like last year, radio sports was a hot topic. Like this comment from a 23-year-old female, E4, who wrote, "Too much sports, especially during the wee hours of the morning." Or this from a 22-year-old male airman who said, "Too much sports. All the good radio shows are preempted by sports. Shift workers don't like this." Radio sports is a touchy area. Either you love it or you hate it. And while we understand how you non-sports fans feel, to totally serve our audience, we have to schedule some sporting events. We actually schedule a very small percentage of the sports available to us. While deciding what to air, we look at several factors, all based on what will appeal to the largest segment of our audience. Audience appeal includes such factors as the popularity of the sport itself. For instance, we scheduled more NFL games than USFL games in a season because in the survey, you told us you like NFL football about 3 times more than the USFL. The importance of the event is also a factor. For example, we don't air many horse races, but when the Kentucky Derby was run last week, we aired it. We also consider the time an event occurs. We prefer to run sports live, though the time difference between us and the States doesn't always allow this. The ideal situation is to air sports in different time blocks, so everyone has an opportunity to listen. In the case of the recent NBA playoffs, game number 3 came across at 3 a.m. our time. Game number 4 was played at 8 p.m. our time. We aired them both live. Another comment concerned our voice line, and a 45-year-old male senior master sergeant took the words right out of our mouth when he said, "Radio news from the States many times cannot be understood." A 25-year-old female sergeant concurred. Many news and sporting broadcasts from the United States cannot be heard very well and are useless rather than informative. Now, this is a problem that has plagued AFRTS for years, and I wish I had some good news for you, but I don't. Instead, let me give you some background on the voice line. Ironically, the AFRTS voice line, designated Fox 648, is neither owned or maintained by AFRTS. It's maintained by the Information Systems Network, what we used to call COM. Our voice line carries a priority of 4A, which puts it behind mission-required lines that serve priority Audubon calls, teletypes, and the base computer. This partially accounts for line outages. We can be preempted. More commonly, outages and interference occur in the links that carry the signal to us here in Crete. The signal originates in Los Angeles, and by the time it gets to us, It has been through 30 different relay stations, using everything from commercial phone lines to microwave links, troposites, and satellites. The signal can be affected by anything from bad weather to sunspots. The trouble is, if a station early in the relay chain introduces some distortion, every station in the chain after it and amplifies it. Our own 2115th Information Systems people do what they can to filter the noise out, but they're not given a great signal to work with. Now try to imagine how a 30th generation videotape copy would look, and you'll get the idea. I wish I could tell you that the quality of our voice line is going to improve, but unfortunately I can't. I just want you to know that we are aware of the situation, and we are working with the Information Systems people towards some sort of a solution. Now, one thing we do broadcast clear as a bell is music. However, getting it to you isn't as simple as we make it seem.
Joan Armatrading from her latest album, Secrets with Thinking Man, and this man thinks it's about time to get on out of here. Aaron McWalsh, and that's closing up another Turnpike, another week. Be back with you Monday afternoon, 4:05. Make it a safe and happy weekend, and I'll be with you the whole way. Goodbye. Hi, I'm Aaron McWalsh. One of the DJs here at Total Radio. I enjoy my job. I like listening to music, and I like playing it for you. But as Sergeant Aldridge said at the beginning of the show, there's a lot more going on than meets the air. The live shows are fun, but that's only a couple hours out of the day, and we put in a full shift just like anyone else. There's plenty of work to go around. We air several features throughout the day, Paul Harvey, Armed Forces Digest, Spectrum, but they come across the voice line at odd times, so we have to record them. We call it offlining, for use at more convenient times. We have to monitor everything to make sure it's air quality. Then there's the general administrative work like filing cards so we can keep track of our record library and putting the top 20 songs on tape cartridges. We also produce spots here, and depending upon the production, this can take anywhere from 20 minutes to several hours. While all this is going on, we have to keep an ear on what's going over the air. Most of the AFRTS music shows you hear are on stereo LPs, 2 to 1 hour. Whatever we're doing at the half hour, we have to drop to change records. Sometime during all this, we have to prepare for our DJ shows. We got our music from AFRTS discs like these. Some of the albums contain singles from various artists, but most of them feature 2 artists per disc, taking the best cuts from the recent albums. We don't get every song on an album, but this allows AFRTS to give us a greater variety of music. And AFRTS does a good job of keeping us current. We get new music every week, and at any given time, we have 96 to 98 of the top 100 songs as rated by Billboard magazine. To make sure we play a good mix instead of a DJ just playing all his favorites, each show has a music wheel that we follow when laying out our music selections. The wheel makes sure we play a variety of music while keeping the flow and an identifiable station sound. Audience surveys like Feedback 85 help us to find out what kind of music you like. And we're listening to what you told us. Well, that's all the time I've got. It's news time. Not for me, for you.
Hi, I'm Russ Casey, the NCOIC of the News Department. Since the last survey back in 1984, we've done a lot of hard work to improve our newscast. We've built a new set, and we've also lengthened and reformatted our 6 p.m. newscast. We're happy to see in this year's survey that you like the changes. Your responses in Feedback 85 told us that more and more of you are watching news than ever before, and you rated News Center 2 and 6 10% higher than our old news show. I just wanted to say that we all appreciate the good things you had to say about us. However, there seems to be some misunderstanding about the new format of our newscast. A 29-year-old tech sergeant wrote, "We need more news. Right now we're getting 15 minutes of news and 15 minutes of sports. News is more important than basketball scores." The truth is we've actually formatted more time for news than we had before. However, I can understand how the viewer might be getting confused. In our old newscast, we had 12 minutes and 30 seconds for news, 2 minutes for weather, and 6 minutes and 30 seconds for sports. Our new newscast sets aside 13 minutes and 30 seconds for news, 2 minutes for weather, 8 minutes and 30 seconds for sports, and then news comes back for another 2 minutes at the end of the cast with a news feature. We used to put this feature in the news block itself, but now we actually end our cast with it. Yet another listener brought up a point that seems to surface every year. He wrote, "We need more timely news. The stuff you read on TV is too old. If World War III broke out tonight, I'd have to wait until next week to hear about it." Here at AFRTS, we receive our news from two main sources. Our primary news source is our teletypes. We receive up-to-the-minute news 24 hours a day from two major American networks, Associated Press and United Press International. This is exactly the same news that radio and TV stations receive in the States, uncensored and timely. As a matter of fact, when it comes to news about the Middle East, you probably hear about it before your friends do back in the States because they're still in bed. In addition, we have two more news sources that we receive by mail. NIWS, as it's called, is a commercial company that packages news of a less perishable nature. For instance, new technology breakthroughs that are likely to be news for a long time. We also receive the ABC Daily Electronic Feed. DEF contains world news stories from across the United States and also the ABC World News Tonight. We take segments from this tape to supplement the news we get on our teletypes. It is not as timely, typically 5 to 7 days old. But then we don't use these tapes to break new news stories. We simply use them to provide background material on ongoing situations. Well, that covers the topics that you were most curious about. Now I'd like to take you for a quick behind-the-scenes look at how a newscast is prepared. But rather than tell you, I'd like to show you.
Good evening. Headlining news tonight, President Reagan praises...
Hi, I'm Master Sergeant Lupe Lopez, NCOIC of Television at AFTV Heraklion, and you would probably like to know how your favorite program did on this year's survey. Well, let's take a look. Information programs took the top spot this year with a 93% approval rating. Information includes shows like 60 Minutes, Perspectives on Greatness, and Ripley's Believe It or Not. Drama shows like Heart to Heart and Knight Rider came in second with 87%. Comedy was close behind with 85% approval, enough for third place, followed by news at number 4 with 60%. Situation comedies, shows like Alice and Goodnight Beantown, came in 5th with a 57% approval rating. You also told us which specific shows you liked, and here's how they did. Cheers took the top spot with 62% approval. It was followed by The Strange Goings-On of Ripley's Believe It or Not with 58%. J.R. Ewing and Company propelled Dallas to the number 3 spot with 55% approval. Entertainment This Week was hot on their tail with a 54% rating. And Solid Gold captured the number 5 slot with 51%. As always, you were pretty vocal about your opinions on the quality of AFRTS programming. Like this comment from a 25-year-old E4. How about some good classic movies on TV, or any good movies for that matter? Or some of the movies shown are cheap, terribly made, and tasteless. We'd love to get better movies, but it gets more difficult all the time. Some of the factors AFRTS is up against include competition from cable and home video. It used to be when a movie got to be a couple of years old, all you could do with it was release it to television. Now a producer can make more money with the cable movie channels and through video cassette sales. Just recently, we aired a classic example, The Day After. Shortly after this movie was aired, AFRTS stations all over the world were barraged by their viewers wanting to know when AFRTS was going to show it. Some people even said the Department of Defense was trying to censor military audiences from seeing it. The truth is simpler. The producers of The Day After spent millions to film it, and understandably, they wanted to get back as much money as they could. So before AFRTS got a shot at it, The Day After made the rounds in international theatrical releases. You could have seen it in downtown Heraklion months ago. The producers knew they wouldn't get as much money back in, say, Germany if AFN broadcast it for free, so AFRTS had to wait. When the owners of the movie rights got as much return on their investment as possible, they released The Day After to AFRTS, and we aired it, uncut. Another listener wrote, "Your TV shows are old and very bad. You only get the shows that didn't last in the States." Again, cost has a lot to do with the shows AFRTS is able to get. Where a commercial station might spend $50,000 for one episode of a popular TV show, most producers are willing to give rights to AFRTS for a very small administrative fee. And that's great, because if AFRTS had to pay those same commercial rates, we'd only be on the air 10 hours a week, or start airing Encyclopedia Britannica films. And, like I said before, we have to wait until the producers have made as much money as they can, mostly through sales to overseas stations. Sometimes the only way AFRTS can get a top-rated show is to buy it as part of a package deal. Basically, this means if AFRTS wants to buy a certain prime property, they have to buy a package of less popular shows along with it. There's another reason shows take so long to get to us. We call it the circuit. There are hundreds of AFRTS stations all around the world, and AFRTS can't afford to send each one its own package of programs. The cost would be enormous. Instead, several stations share one package, shipping it along as they're through with it. Our circuit starts in Los Angeles. It goes to Fort Clayton, Panama, then to Lodges, the Azores, Torrejon, Spain, and then to us. When we're through with the program package, we ship it to the next station, and eventually it gets back to Los Angeles. From the time LA releases a shipment to the time that we receive it here at Heraklion, approximately 4 months have already passed. Finally, many of you wrote, "Why did you cancel Dallas?" and Heart to Heart, and so forth. Wait a minute, time out. We don't cancel programming. We air exactly what AFRTS sends us. Some programs stop, some programs start, and that's how you get your variety, just like in the States. But look what we've got coming for you later this summer. In the next few weeks, look for Facts of Life, Benson, and Call to Glory. Dallas will return in July, followed closely by Magnum P.I. and St. Elsewhere. We're expecting Give Me a Break, Foul-Ups, Bleeps, and Blunders, and Hill Street Blues back by the end of the summer. Regulations require that we air 100% of all the programming that AFRTS sends us, but we decide where to schedule it. And pleasing everybody is not an easy task, as you'll see when we return.
Ideals worth striving for. Ideals worth having. These are the ideals of the Girl Scouts. Honesty, fairness, helpfulness, to be considerate, to be a friend, to show respect. Help keep the tradition alive. Be a volunteer. Call Ann Pileski at 3976.
Just sitting here reading a broadcast management book on programming. It's a very difficult subject. No matter, it seems, how you program, the audience always thinks you're not doing it right. I am the program director for AFRTS Heraklion, Air Force Sergeant Charlie Kemplin. There are a lot of different ways to program a station, whether it's an AFRTS or commercial television, but the main area of a program director is to make the decision based on gathering all the facts. Once we gather the facts, and we're talking about Nielsen ratings, the ratings of the top-rated programs, we're talking about you, the audience, that's demographics, and we talk about different rotating shifts, which we have here. So there's a lot of facts to weigh before we go about placing programs within our program schedule. I'll talk about a few of the programming dilemmas that I face, and I hope that I can make my job understood to you as we take a look at Feedback 85. We received some 347 surveys back, approximately the same number that we received on Feedback 84. And for those of you folks that have been around to see both of the surveys compiled, some interesting changes have been made, mostly because you suggested them. First of all, some of the improvements that have been made has been one of earlier sign-on the weekends. Most of you wanted to see more entertaining programs for the children, which meant cartoons. We took a look at that, and we decided that we could sign on an hour earlier. Also on the weekdays, we decided that perhaps, based on your comments, we could sign on an hour earlier. By signing on an hour earlier, at 12 o'clock on weekdays, we're able to bring you one of your popular soap operas, General Hospital. By putting it on at 12 o'clock noon, it's in a time area where you can work your lunch break around it if you needed to watch that popular series. On Sunday afternoons, you said you didn't like all that firewalling of sports. And I'll have to admit, we did have about 5 hours, 5 hours of sports on a Sunday afternoon. However, you wanted to see a Sunday afternoon movie. We came up with that. We now, as a matter of fact, not too long ago, we were showing 2 movies on Sunday. However, time does not permit us to show 2 movies all the time, so we do the second best thing and we give you at least 1 Sunday afternoon movie. As far as sports on the weekends, there's really nothing we can do about it because sports is traditionally set aside in the States and here at Heraklion for the sports buff. But if you take a close look at the amount of sports we have on television here at Heraklion, it comes out to about 9% of the total programming, and that's not a lot. We are doing a little bit different scheduling of programming with the sports. You might notice that we at times have a little sports on at Monday night, sometimes a boxing or a little preview of baseball. This is to give it a more diversified breakdown so that we don't have to put it all on Saturday and Sunday afternoons. One of the comments that I received was from a shift worker, and they wanted to know why the television schedule wasn't fair to the shift workers. At the time, perhaps they did have a legitimate complaint because we did have some of the more unpopular programs scheduled during the late night hours when the swing people were just getting off. We realized that when the shift workers get off, especially the swing shift, they've only got 3 hours of programming to watch. So what we've done, based on your Feedback 85 comments, is to give the shift workers a primetime slot each night. I'll give you an example. If you look at when we start our primetime programming, for the nighttime worker, which is a little after 11 o'clock, you'll notice across the board, Entertainment This Week, 60 Minutes, Dynasty, Falcon Crest, and a movie. Now, I'm going to get to that movie in just a minute. Also, Solid Gold, The Cosby Show. We give you our local military information show, whether it be Heraklion Magazine, American Forces Perspective. Going into Thursday, you have Cagney and Lacey. There's Fame, Too Close for Comfort. All of these are traditional top-rated programs. They're primetime winners. We re-air them just for our shift workers. As for that Friday movie, we realized that the shift workers only had 1 movie to watch during once they got off work. So we said we've got to give them something more than 1 movie. And how do we go about doing it? Well, knowing that you get off work at 10:30, we said we've got to have the movie start at a little after 11. So we put 2 buffer programs in after the news on Friday nights. Fight Back with David Horowitz, a very entertaining and informative consumer program, followed by Hit City, which features music videos. By doing this, it allows us to put the Friday night movie on at 11:05 when you want to see it. One of the comments was that we didn't have enough movies for the folks that were getting off after doing the swing. But now as we look at it with the new Friday night starting time, the late Sunday night movie, which we just instituted, and the late Saturday movie, that's giving our shift workers 3 movies. Before I close, I want to tell you that I'm concerned about the 3 people who commented about Abbott and Costello. I don't know where they were from or what squadron they were in. I don't know if they know something that we here don't know. But I was checking our programming for later on this year, and starting in July, we are getting the Abbott and Costello show.
along with Death Valley Days and Peter Gunn. It seems nostalgia is taking over the United States, and AFRTS, and our programming center in Los Angeles, says if it's good enough for the folks back in the States, let's send it to our folks overseas. Now I'm going to turn it back over to station manager Al Aldridge.
Well, that about does it. I hope that we were able to answer some of the questions you had about Feedback 85. And I also hope that we gave you some insight into how we go about doing our jobs. And remember, if there's ever a question you may have about AFRTS, give us a call. We'll be more than happy to talk to you. I won't be here personally to answer your questions, but the new station manager will be, and I'd like to introduce him, Senior Master Sergeant Gary Summerall.
Thank you, Al. It's a distinct pleasure to be here at Heraklion Air Station Crete, taking control of a super broadcast facility. As a matter of fact, one of the best I've seen in over 17 years with the AFRTS system. You know, I just got off the telephone with an individual that asked me, who's your boss? Who do you work for? Well, quite simply, my boss is the commander of Air Force European Broadcasting Squadron in Ramstein, Germany. But I hasten to add that I work very closely with the base commander here at Heraklion Air Station Crete. AFRTS is the commander's internal informational tool to get the word out to you. Finally, as you know, we've got a fine staff here at AFRTS to serve you, and service is the purpose and reason behind us being here. My thanks to Al Aldridge for a superb 2 years of leadership here at Detachment 4. You know, you've seen a lot of great products in the past. You're going to see more to come. Stay tuned.